Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord, and similarly, persons engaged in the line of Brahma's plan of activities also know how to satisfy the Lord. The Lord is satisfied by the process of devotional service, consisting of the ninefold process of hearing, chanting, and so on. It is in one's own self-interest to execute prescribed devotional service, and anyone who neglects this process neglects his own self-interest. Everyone wants to satisfy his senses, but above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is individual self, and above the individual self is the super self. Above even the super self is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu Tattva. The primeval Lord and the cause of all causes is Sri Kṛṣṇa. The complete process of perfectional service is to render service for the satisfaction of the transcendental senses of Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is known as Janārdana. Presents the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Kṛṣṇa Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here Brahma is instructing Swayambhu Manu, why should one satisfy the Lord? What happens if you don't satisfy the Lord is enumerated here. He says, the Supreme Lord Janārdana, Yajna Lingo Janārdana, is the form to accept all the results of sacrifice. Yajna Lingaha, personification of sacrifice. Esham Natusto Bhagavan, if he is not satisfied, Tesham Shramohi Apartaya, all his Shrama, all his endeavors is Apa Artaya, is of no use. Artaya means profit, Apartaya means no profit. Simply waste of time. Tesham Shramaha hi Apartaya. Yadatma na Adruta Swayam, if he is the ultimate soul, Yad Atma, and therefore one who does not satisfy him is na Adruta Swayam. He is neglecting his own self, his own interest. If one does not satisfy the Lord, one is losing one's opportunity. The purport says, Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord, and similarly, persons in the line of Lord Brahma also know how to satisfy the Lord. Means those acharyas in the parampara system, they know how one can satisfy the Lord. So it is in one's own self-interest to execute prescribed devotional service, and anyone who neglects this process neglects his own self-interest. The purpose of entire creation is for a living entity to go back home, back to Godhead. And the process for going back home, back to Godhead is engaging in devotional service. And if a person does not engage in the devotional service, he is losing his own self-interest. The complete process of perfectional service is to render service for the satisfaction of the transcendental service, senses of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Rishikena Rishikesha Shevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. The definition of Bhakti itself is engaging one's senses in the service of Master of his. So, just trying to understand on this Prabhupada, what and all did he say on this Shreme Vahi kevalam? This today's concept is almost the same perspective. Shremohi Apartaya. So, Prabhupada says, not a single moment waste. If you want to become successful in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, don't lose even a single moment. That should be the first determination. So, if you want to become successful in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, not to lose even a second. Next. So we have given you many books. Don't sleep. Don't waste a single moment. Of course, you have to sleep. Reduce it as much as possible. How much body is sufficient? How much sleep is sufficient for the body? Let us manage with that. Next. We read Bhagavatam authorized. We read Brahma Samhita, not rascals' books. What these rascals can write, they are imperfect. So don't waste your time. Simply always pour in. Give oral reception to the message of Urukrama. Don't waste a single moment. That should be your life's policy. See, Prabhupada is saying, your life's policy. Always hear, read, pour in. Next. If you are tired of this book, then transfer your attention to another book. Then another book. Find out, simply not to waste a single moment. Kirtaniya Sadahari. So somehow or other, we should always be hearing something or reading something. So those who are engaged in deity worship, those engaged in Sankirtana, those engaged in distributing books, those engaged in the office for keeping accounts, all of them are in devotional service. Not a single moment to be wasted. So any service for the service of the Lord is an engagement, not to waste a single moment. So we should be very responsible to this life in serving Krishna. Make yourself successful. Every moment should be utilized to serve Krishna. Always think, how can I serve Krishna? Do not waste a single moment. Like Bhagavatam instructs us, Ena tena prakarena mana Krishnena veshtaya. Somehow or other you have to think how to engage this mind in the service of the Lord. We have to finish our Krishna consciousness during our lifetime, and we should not waste a single moment for anything else. So at various places, Prabhupada's whole perspective is always be Krishna conscious. Like when somewhere somebody used to come and pay obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he used to bless them, Krishna Matirastu. Prabhupada translates it as always be Krishna conscious. The whole perspective is when Krishna is saying Manmana Bhava Madbhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru. That principle, how do we implement? We know theoretically, but make it practical. That practical is in the association of devotees. But if we miss this opportunity, what Bhagavatam says about this? Dharma swanushtita pumsam vishwakshena katashoyaha na utpadiyed yadiratim shremevahi kevalam. So, devotional service is the ultimate need for the living in. He says, dharma, occupational duties, whatever we are doing, swa anushtitaha pumsam. If a person performs according to his own position, swa anushtitaha, according to his capacity, according to his position, if he performs dharma, or shremevahi kevalam, are only much as useless labor. Why? Na utpadiyed yati. If it does not invoke, if it does not evolve ratim, attraction for Visvakshena Katasuiha, the messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is simply waste of time. So whatever activity we do, it should engage us, bring us closer to the Lord. We should develop attraction for the Lord. We should develop affection for the Lord. We should come finally to the stage of love of Godhead. So if it is not generating love of Godhead, it is like one more place in 5th canto also says, Yata ihaika amushmika kama lampataha suteshu dareshu daneshu chintayan shanketa vidvan kukalevara atyayat yastasya yatnaha shremevahi kevalam. Today's all verses will be shremevahi kevalam. Like in Bhagavata means that word, how many times it has been reiterated by various personalities. So we have to understand the seriousity of the subject. So there are people, yata kama lampataha aihika amushika. There are materialists who are very attached to their personal bodily comforts, and the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Currently, I have so and so car, I have so and so house, and in future I want to have a bigger car, a bigger house. The planning, everybody plans like that. But this is materialistic planning. Then, suteshu, dareshu, daneshu chintayan. They are always thinking of chintayan. Suta, children, what will happen to them? What will happen to my wife? What will happen to my money? Always in anxiety for all these attachments. Itnanitni tokal antaru. They are all like tails which get attached to us. Next. And sanketa ku kalevaraha, and afraid of giving up their bodies. Nobody wants to die. This is one of the most wonderful things. When this Yaksha Prashna was asked, Yamadharmara says, what is the most wonderful thing? This is called as, there are 7 wonders in this world, no? Correct? 7 or 6? 7. This is called as 8th wonder. What is that starting of this book? Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti hamalayam shesha stavaram icchanti kimascharya matah param. Every moment we see there are many people dying, and every day they are going to Yamalayam. There is a bus regularly taking people from here to Yamaloka. Regular bus service is there. And we are seeing in front of us only that bus is going. But we are thinking, I am not going to get into that bus. I am going to stay here permanently. And this is the most wonderful thing. This is called as 8th wonder. Everybody is going to die except me. So next, but yad vidwan, if a person engaged in Krishna consciousness who is a learned person, atyayat, he is also afraid of giving up his body. Tasya yatnaha, what is the use of having labored so much study to Shastras? After studying everything, if you are thinking that even I don't want to give up this, quit this body, what is the use of studying so much Shastras? It is shrameva hi kevalam, simply waste of time. So this principle in this verse, Prabhupada says, the materialists at the time of death, they are thinking, what will happen to my body, what will happen to my wife, what will happen to my children, what will happen to my wealth, who will take care of them after I leave. And he is not prepared to give up his body. He wants to continue to serve this body. So therefore this Ashtanga Yoga system is meant to become detached from this bodily concept of life. But if despite practicing bhakti and studying all the Vedic literatures, if one does not come to this conclusion of understanding that soul is eternal, body is temporary, and one has to quit his body, and his whole purpose is engaging in devotional service, if this is not his conclusion, it is shrameva hi kevalam. Like there was one person, very rich man, but because of modern day impact, he became bald. Bodugundu. So he was thinking, I have so much money, now I should do something, I should get my hair back, or else people look down upon me. So he expressed this idea in front of his friend, who was a cunning fellow. He said, somehow you have to do something, you bring some doctor who can help me to regain my hair. So this friend said, yes, I have another friend who is very expert in this, but it will take time, you have to spend money. This person also said, if you can get my hair back, I'll give you a big gift for you, big money I'll give you so much. So this person bought the doctor, who is also a cheater, So both of them stayed in his house, and every day they are enjoying. They are trying to do some massage, all these things and all. After some time, the doctor, because of eating too much thing, he felt pity upon him. One day he called him aside and he removed his hair and showed his bald head. So he said, "What did you understand?" He said, "You are trying very hard to bring hair on my head. Please do it fast." The doctor said, "You're a foolish fellow. I myself, I am bald. If I could not generate hair on my head, what can I do for you? You are still not understanding what I am trying to communicate. You are simply wasting your money and time." And he went away from that. See, many people we perceive, but they are not ready to accept the reality. They want to get into that cycle and they don't want to come out of it. So similarly, further place Bhagavatam, it says, Lord Brahma says in his prayers to Lord Krishna, the 10th canto, 14th chapter, Shreya Shrutim Bhaktim Udasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Kevala Bodhalabdaye Tesham Asu Kleshala Eva Shishyate Na Anyad Yata Stula Tusha Abaghatina. He said, "Oh Vibho, oh my dear Lord, Bhaktim Shreya Shrutim, devotional service to you is the only auspicious path, only Shreya. Bhakti to the Lord is the only auspicious path. Udasyate, if one gives this up, for ye kevala bodha labdaye, simply for speculative knowledge. He klishyanti, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He is simply endeavoring too much for only shramaha. Tesham asho kleshala eva shishyate, he only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. So in this process, it is only troublesome and inauspicious activities he is engaging in this. It is like yata stula tusha avagatinam, he is beating husk. See, when you get grains like paddy, there is a grain, there is a husk. You beat paddy, you get grain and you leave the husk. Now somebody comes and starts beating that husk. Will you get grains? So his endeavor, his labor becomes fruitless. Na anya. Yata stula tusha avagatinam. He is simply engaging in beating. Whole day he is beating that husk. But what is the use? Husk will not give grains. So similarly, one more place it says, in Ramayana, there was a small perspective. After the war, Lord Ramachandra returned to Ayodhya. So there was a huge monkey group which has followed him. So after becoming the king of Ayodhya, Lord Ramachandra hosted a feast for all the monkeys because they had helped him in winning the war. So Lord Ramachandra, Sita and Lakshmana were personally going everywhere and overseeing that everybody are fed sumptuously. So suddenly one monkey jumped up. Seeing that, the next monkey jumped even higher. In a moment, all the monkeys were jumping and finally Hanuman jumped too higher. So Lord Ramachandra became very happy and he asked Hanuman, "What made you so happy? What is that something special? You are all jumping up and down." Hanuman said, "I don't know. The next person jumped, so I jumped. So I wanted to prove everybody are small in front of me." Then they questioned the next monkey. He said, "Next one jumped because I jumped." So like that, when came to a sequence, finally they came to the first monkey which jumped. When they asked that first monkey, the first monkey said, "I was peeling a banana. The fruit jumped from my hand. I want to show that fruit. I can jump more than you. So I jumped." The next person thought, He is saying, I can't jump, that's why he jumped. In the sequence that everybody started jumping more than the other one. And see, we are all doing, we don't know why we are jumping. So in this material world is this jumping like a monkey's on. He is jumping, I should jump more. Or why are you jumping? Nobody knows. Shrameva hi kevalam. So, Lord Krishna, while instructing Uddhava, he updates the perspective. He says, Shabda Brahmani Nishnato na Nishnayet yad pare yadi Shramastasya Shramo Phalo hi Adenum iva Rakshataha. So, Shabda Brahmani Nishnataha, those who are expert in understanding Vedic literatures. But na nishnayet pareyadi. But if he is not able to focus his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, pareyadi, he adenum iva rakshataha. He is maintaining a cow which will never give milk. You are taking care of a cow very nicely, but if it doesn't give milk, in other words, shramastasya shrama phalaha. His fruit of one's laborious study of Vedic knowledge will be labor itself. Shramastasya shrama phalaha. The more you work hard, your work hard is only your phala. There is no result in it. So he gives with an example how Gam Dugdha Doham, Gam, cow, Dugdha Doham, which has quit milking, giving milk, Asatim cha bharyam, if he maintains a wife which is unchaste, Deham paradinam, a person who is dependent upon others for his maintenance, Asat prajamcha, and if he is having a children who doesn't listen to him, who are very bad persons, Vittam tu, or wealth not utilized in the right purpose, Vittam tu, Atirthi kritam. So, my dear Uddhava, Anga, similarly, Vacham Hinam Maya Rakshati. The words of Vedic literatures which devoid of my glories, Maya Rakshati, is Dukkha Dukki, is almost miserable. So, you are wasting your endeavor. If you are studying the entire Vedic literature, but that books which are devoid of glories of the Lord, is Shrameva hi kevalam. And finally he says, what is the solution? Yashyam name pavanam anga sthiti uddhava prana nirodhamasya leelavatara ipshita janma vandyam giram tam vibriyan na dhiraha. So he says, my dear Uddhava, O Anga, Yashyam name karma. An intelligent person should never take literatures that do not contain description of Lord's activities. Means we should not read books which are not spiritual at all. If you read magazines, all these things and all, what do we get? We only get anxiety. There is no benefit in reading magazines so intently. Because the books about the Lord, either Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Ramayanam, are pavanam, they purify us. The consciousness becomes purified when we read these spiritual books. Because the Lord's position is Sthiti Udbhava Prana Nirodham Asya. The Lord is the creator, maintainer and annihilator of this entire material universe. And he says, Leelavatara Ipsita Janma Vasya. In all the Leelavataras, my avatars Rama and Krishna are very dear to me. And Vandyam Giram, and any so-called knowledge that do not recognize the activities of the Lord is simply barren. And tam bibriya na dhiraha, and an intelligent person does not accept all those useless lectures. So then what should we do? Finally Bhagavatam says, Samsara sindhum atidustaram utitishayor na anyaplava bhagavataha purushottamasya leela kata rasa nisevanim antarena pumso bhaved vivida dukkha dhavarittasya. He says, Pumso bhavet vivida dukkha dhava arditasya. We are all suffering in the fire of countless miseries in this material world. It's called the samsara arnava. It's an ocean of cycle of birth and death. It's an ocean. And we are suffering continuously in these miseries. And it is Utitirshayor samsara sindhum atidustaram. It is very difficult to cross this ocean. Samsara sindhum atidustaram. And na anya plavaha bhagavataha antarena. And there, if you want to cross this ocean, you require a boat. And what is a suitable boat for this? Except bhagavataha antarena, cultivation of devotion to the Lord. Bhakti is the boat for cultivation. For what? Purushottamasya leela kata rasa nishevanam. To develop taste for the activities, pastimes and narrations of the Supreme Lord. So, Purushottamasya leela kata rasa nishevanam. One should develop taste and enjoy the pastimes of the Lord by engaging in bhakti. This is the boat for crossing this ocean of material world. So, similarly, there was one specific story which explains about the glories of devotion service. So, we all know Tyagaraja, a great devotee who has composed songs, various songs in glorifying the Lord. So, he had an ardent desire to have darshan of Lord Srinivasa. So, he was traveling. So, he came to Alipiri. From there, he started climbing. He was feeling that divine, like he was meditating upon the Lord, on the Lord's form, Lord's pastimes. And he was in that anticipation. He was in that anxiety. He was in that ecstasy. He wanted to have darshan of the Lord. So, he was thinking of one of the prayers of Alvars, Kulashekar Alvar, who had written Mukunda Mala Stotra. There are some 1 or 2 verses I will recite. What does he says? Prithvi Renuranu Payamshi Kanikaha Falguhu Spulingo Laguhu Tejo Nissavanam Marut Tanutarum Randram Su Sukshmam Nabaha Kshudra Rudra Pitamaha Prabhrutayatha Kita Samastaha Suraha Drishte Yatra Sa Tarako Vijete Shri Padaduli Kanaha. He says, Prithvi Renuranu. This entire earth becomes just a dust piece. Prithvi Renuranu Payamsi Kanikaha. And the entire waters, Falguhu, is like a droplet. An ocean becomes a droplet. Earth becomes simply a dust particle. Spulingo Lagus Tejaha. The entire fire becomes like a spark. Nissavanam Marut. The entire wind becomes like a faint sigh. Like one small. The entire wind becomes like a small sigh. Tanutarum Randam Susukshmam Nabaha. The entire space becomes like a small hole. Because Drishte Yatra Sa Tarakaha. Once one has the darshan of the Supreme Personality of God, everything becomes as small as possible because the Lord is so infinite. In front of the Lord, everything is negligible. He says, Kshudra Rudra Pitamaha Prabhrutayaha. All the great demigods like Brahma, Shiva, everything are Kshudraha. They become insignificant in front of the Lord. Kitaha Samastaha Suraha. All the demigods become like insects in front of the Lord. Vijayate Shri Padaduli Kanaha. Even one particle from the dust of the Lord's lotus feet conquers all the world. Vijayate Shri Padaduli Rajaha. Just a drop or one particle of the dust from the Lord's lotus feet conquers the whole world. Next he says, Shrunvan Janārdana Katha Guna Kirtanani. One should hear Janārdana Katha. the pastimes of the Lord. Dehe nayasya pulakodgama roma rajihi. And if by hearing, if his deha na udgama pulakaha, if his bodily hair doesn't stand, na utpade nayanor vimalambu malaha, and the eyes doesn't have tears, clear water coming out of it, diktasya jivitam, his life is waste. Diktasya jivitam. Aho purushadamasya, he is simply the lowest of the mankind. See, same, Swayambhu kevalam, his life is dik, waste. We say, no, deniki panikram అని చెప్పి చెప్తాం కదా. ముకుంద తులశేఖరాల విషయం, your life is waste. Then he says, andasya me hruta viveka mahadanasya chaurai prabho balibir indriya namadeyaihi mohanda kupa kuhura vinipati tasya devesha dehi kṛṣṇasya karavalambam. He says, oh Prabhu, oh my dear Lord, balibihi chauraha. Chauraha means thieves. And balibihi, they are very strong. Who? Indriya namadeyaha, my senses, are the strongest thieves. And how? Andasya me, they have blinded me. Hruta mahadanasya, and by they have stealing away my most precious dana, property. What is that? Vivekaha, my discrimination. And mohanda kupa kuhare vinipati tasya, and they have thrown me into a deep dark well of moha anda, of delusion. Therefore, O Devesha, O Lord, dehi kṛṣṇasya karavalambam, please give me your hand and pick me up out of this well. So see how the devotees are trying to ecstatically communicate to the Lord. I have fallen in this ocean of cycle of birth and death. Please give me a hand and pick up from this ocean. So with that mood, he entered the temple. He went to the Pushkarani. He took bath and had darshan of Swamy, and he immediately came in front of the Lord. But that day being Friday, Abhishekam finished and they were dressing to the Lord. So suddenly his intensity of having darshan of the Lord was curtailed by that curtain. So he became little agitated that he was not able to have darshan of the Lord. And spontaneously he started singing one song which is known as Teratiya Radhe. So he says, Teratiya Radhe Loni Tirupati Venkata Ramana Matsaramonu. So there is a Tera, means there is a screen of enviousness, jealousy within me, which is covering me in having darshan of you. Please remove that curtain so that I will be able to have darshan of you. Next he says, Parama Purusha Dharmadi Mokshamulu Paradrolu Nunnadi Naloni. And what is the screen doing? It is keeping me away from this bhakti, devotion service to the Lord, and engaging me in other activities. Masyamu akalikoni kalamuche magnamaina ritina unnadi. This is like the fish, just for the purpose of taste. It's being bitten by the bait and it's losing its life. Even though it is not hungry, just for the taste of the tongue, it is being stuck up and it is losing its life. Achamaina deepa sannidhini marugu addadabi cherachina attu unnadi. So it is a screen that is hindering me from this transcendental knowledge, transcendental form of the Lord, by obstructing it, the screen is obstructing me for understanding you, from visualizing you. Iruva undaga bujayinchu samayamuna eega tagulu reetina unnadi. You are having a huge feast, but suddenly you saw a fly in that feast. This is something like you can't eat, you can't throw. హరి ధ్యానమును సేయు వేళ చిత్తము అంత్యజు వాడుకు పోయిన అట్టు ఉన్నది. While I am trying to meditate upon Hari, it is thinking of some useless personality. My mind is being diverted in this way. He says, వాగురము అని తెలియక మృగగణములు వచ్చి తగులు రీతిన ఉన్నది. So there is a ditch, but animals doesn't knowing that as a ditch, they are coming and falling in the ditch. వేగమే నీ మతమును అనుసరించిన త్యాగరాజునుత మత మాత్సరము అను. He saying, O Lord, who has adhered to your path, why don't you quickly remove my inner screens of pride, envy and everything, so that I will be able to have darshan of you. This kama, krodha, moha, mada, matsarya, he was praying to remove all these screens which are blocking me in having your darshan. So as soon as he sang the song, Lord became so ecstatic. Lord wanted to have darshan of Tyagaraja. Immediately curtains fell down, it seems. Suddenly you have to remove the curtain, no? Suddenly that rod fell down. And Lord wanted to have darshan of Tyagaraja. So Tyagaraja became ecstatic because Lord, he was able to have darshan of the Lord, and he immediately started glorifying the Lord in various ways. He saw the beautiful darshan of the Lord, the beautiful sari, the beautiful ornaments on the decoration of the Lord, and his beautiful smiling face. After seeing all these things and all, he finally sings one more song. He saying, Venkatesha ninu sevimpuna padavela kanulu gavalenaya. Padivela kanulu gavalenaya. He is saying, to see you, these 2 eyes are not sufficient. I want 10,000 eyes to see you. పంకజాక్ష పరిపాలిత మునిజన భావుకమగు దివ్య రూపము గొన్న. So he is saying, great saints had worked hard to have darshan. What is my qualification to have your darshan? Like that the song goes on. The whole perspective is, the devotee, he feels insignificant and he sees unqualified himself. Or he is representing all of us. And the mood in which how we are trying to work out should be to, by their inspiration, by their practical life, we have to pick up these points. How we can also sensitively engage all our activities for the service of the Lord and not get diverted away in this material sense gratification. Simply, or else it will be shrameva hi kevalam. So, I'll stop here. Any questions or doubts? ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की, ताई गौर प्रेम.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణ వాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 913310